Hello, happy Money Monday. Welcome to another Money Monday with Purse Strings. My name is Maggie Nielsen, and I'm a partner here at Purse Strings. And we come in every week to give tips, tricks, pieces of advice to help women be financially fearless. And then when you are ready to either get divorced, get married, need a will, need a trust, planning for retirement, we have top tier financial professionals willing, ready, and able to serve you. We call those our Purse Strings approved professionals, and Jennifer is one of them. And we're so excited to have her on today to talk about the great divorce, having a CDFA, and who's really on your team there. And so before we dive into all of that fun, Jennifer, could you give us a little intro of who you are and what you do?
Sure. Again, I'm Merida. Mother of 6 children, and all been in the financial industry. Try to succeed. Yeah.
Sorry, this Wi-Fi is not doing the best with me right now, so I'm trying to see how we can make this happen. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Jennifer?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right, cool. Sorry. My Wi-Fi kind of snuck out there for a minute. So I missed some of that intro, but I hope everyone else caught it. And so today we are going to be diving into the great divorce and who's really on your team. And a huge person of that is a CDFA, which is a designation I know you have. And so can we just start by kind of explaining what the CDFA is, what that stands for, and all that good information?
Sure. A CDFA is a certified divorce financial analyst. And what that means to you is it's someone who is specifically licensed and tested many times over in all aspects of divorce. So divorce finance, understanding law, court proceedings, it really goes in through the whole holistic version of finances through divorce. And you have to pass 4 different tests and case studies to really understand that situation and complexities that go along with a process that most people don't want to go through or don't think they're ever going to go through. And then when they find themselves there, it's needing that financial expert, that financial person to walk alongside you and say, all right, we have somebody for the law, right? But then we have somebody for the next important thing, which is finances, because that's how you're going to plan for financial security in the future. So that CDFA is specialized. Like I said, financial advisors can do this as well, but that CDFA took that one step further to really hone in and understand the aspects and the emotions and the finances around divorce.
Which is huge. I mean, the law is a huge portion, but the finances and the emotion and navigating all of that is also it's a whole boat as well. So it's really important to kind of have somebody who has the specialty and this designation when you're going through this unique process. And so I know we were talking a little bit about how the attorney does law and the CDFA does finances. So do you need both professionals on your team, like an attorney and a CDFA?
I want to rewind to people to their wedding, right? So if you think of somebody who's getting married and all of the professionals that are involved in that one day for your wedding, you have someone that's doing the dress, you have the flowers, you have the food, you have the cake, you have the minister, the church, the venue, the photographer, right? We can go on and on about people who put together a wedding. And then, statistics, right? At times it's 50, at times it's 40%. Both are high percentages of people that will go through divorce. And they rely just on the lawyer, which thank goodness, because lawyers are amazing. But think of all the other aspects that go along with getting divorced, right? Children, you could use a therapist, a mortgage broker, and a financial expert or financial advisor should be in there somewhere, because if you think about it, right, you've taken your finances and you've put them together, and now you have to take your finances and you have to separate them. And that is not an easy feat. And what does that look like for the future? So we talk about different stages, and I know we're going to talk about gray divorce here, but if you look at it and you're closer to retirement and all of a sudden now you thought your future was going to be together and that you had your 401ks and you had your pensions and you had your finances, and now you're on your own, can you still retire? What does that look like? So just having that financial person along with a lawyer gives the client that has those professionals on their side, first of all, they're going to be in the driver's seat. Second of all, they're going to know their financial options, that when there's negotiations, right, it doesn't go one way or another. There's going to be negotiations, right? It's going to meet somewhere in the middle, that person can say, I understand what that option is, and I'm confident moving forward with this option, instead of just having your head in the sand and saying, yeah, I guess if I don't have a choice, I think that's okay. And all of a sudden a year later, when you're more awake, right, because divorce is an emotional process, you go, why did I say yes to this? Mm-hmm. I really am passionate about my clients knowing what they're saying yes to and why, and how it impacts their future. They're not always happy, but they understand why.
I love that analogy of kind of, for a wedding, you have to hire all these people, because somebody there could take photos, but ideally you would have a photographer, right. Anyone could come in and take some photos and try to help you out. But no, you want those perfect photos that are going to last a lifetime. That would be like from the photographer. And so I kind of like that analogy about how, when separating, you also need all these different professionals.
Right. Because those decisions are honestly more important and more impactful to, can I survive in the future? Like, will I be able to pay my bills? Will I be okay? I believe those questions are more important.
And that's another thing I wanted to touch on, is how you mentioned, when sometimes you'll come out, a year or two later and then kind of regret that decision that you made. And it's easy to kind of put our head in the sand and just say, I'm trying to get this done, right. And kind of bypass some of these decisions. But it is important because they are life-lasting, impactful decisions. They're not things that we can go back and kind of edit later. So having someone on your team who can really, see clearly, and see what the future might look like just a bit, is super helpful. Exactly. Objectively.
And life is still going on while you're getting a divorce. Yeah. I help a lot of higher end C-levels in businesses, women that are going through divorce, and they're still running a business. They still have small children. They're still, running their family household. And now they have an upheaval of divorce, and they need to figure everything out while everybody's asking them questions. Think of just in a normal daily life when my children ask me for questions. I'm like, I am trying to work and get everything done.
Right.
Well, now have the detrimental effect of divorce on your mind, that your whole life is turned upside down, and you're having to make decisions that are, very, very important, along with everything else going on. Life doesn't stop. So having that professional say, hey, let's think about it this way. Let's bring it down, and maybe you get too into the weeds. Let's go up here and say, all right, make this decision because this is going to save you this much with the lawyer, and this is what probably could happen anyway. And really giving them that security and that empowerment of those options, that they say, okay, I understand this and I understand why, and they're confident with their lawyer. Because sometimes people will go back to the lawyer and say, well, why are you saying this? Do you have an ulterior motive? And they don't. Lawyers don't have an ulterior motive, but having a couple professionals there, that client feels more secure and confident about those decisions.
Right. Everybody with their expertise agreed that this would be the best decision for me. So they're probably right. And have that kind of, have you on their side. And so when's the best time to start working with a CDFA, if, in a perfect world?
In a perfect world, it's going to be before you file for divorce or before somebody files for divorce, because if somebody else is filing, it's kind of brought upon you. You don't have a choice.
Right.
But if you're contemplating getting a divorce, if there's abuse situation or if there's something going on, you're like, I've tried everything. I know this is the route I have to take. Really getting that groundwork, because a lot of people are going day to day and they're not understanding where they're even at status quo of their budget, of what they're spending, because they have two incomes coming in, they have kids, and they're living life like we all do. Now we have to say, okay, where are we? What are we spending on food, going out to eat? What are our bills? Where are we at for retirement? Where's my savings at? What are my assets? So we can really get a good base to then have you make the right decision, not based on, can I survive? Do I have to stay in this because I don't know if I could survive? You have the answer. Yes, I'm going to be able to survive, or I have a good projection, right? I don't know. Like, divorces go in all different realms. All we can do is provide a good base or good projections. And then that person can really sit back and say, all right, do I need to file? Am I doing this for the right reasons? Not because I'm scared I can't survive, but I know that I'll be okay. But can I help this person, or can this marriage, survive and be fixed? Also, then if you're asked for divorce, right, if you don't have a choice and somebody filed, then getting that financial help right away, saying, okay, what does this future look like? I think so as soon as possible, the best. But I work with clients even after. So the divorce is final, right? We can't go back and change any decisions made. And I'm sure everybody was in good hands, but we can't change that. But we can say, all right, what's your future going forward? Because sometimes people are, after the divorce is final, they just want to put the divorce decree in their drawer and not look at it again. And you need to take that out and hurry, because there could be deadlines, or there could be timelines on there. So we can start building a plan in bite-sized pieces to make it where you're saying, okay, I get these things done. Now I can look at my will. Now I can look at refinancing. Now I can look at, changing all the titling, beneficiaries, everything that goes with it. So any stage is great. But of course, like everything, the sooner, the better. You're going to have more financial confidence and stability.
Definitely. I love that. Yeah, because it's important to figure out where all your assets are, what the cash flow is like in your house, before you dive in. But any time is great, as long as you have the conversation and jump in, that's really ideal.
Now I have a lot of attorneys reach out to me and say, hey, Jen, can you help them understand this? Right? Because it gives them a better idea of, hey, what happens if they want to keep the house, buy out, or use a different asset to buy out, or, what are those different options? And I'm able to take the time and understand that person's specific situation. That's another thing. Your situation, if you're going through a divorce, is not like somebody else's, right? Two different people, two different stories, two different financial situations. But I can take a look at that and say, hey, and then it helps the attorney say, all right, I feel confident about this decision as well. So I get people in the middle of it as well.
Okay, awesome. And it's interesting when you bring like a financial professional in, how much a dollar, today is worth a dollar tomorrow versus a dollar in the house versus a dollar in your 401k. They're really not equal, 100 cents for each dollar. And so you really do need the specialist to come in and kind of help you decipher, what's going to be equal for today and for tomorrow.
And we call it like assets, right? Because you're going to compare your checking account or an investment account that's just a joint investment to a retirement account. Well, we have to take in consideration taxes. And that could be a big, it's easy. Those two biggest assets are your house normally and your retirement. Yeah. And those two are normally not comparable because of the tax treatment of both of those.
Right. That's why, it's wild. So I'm like, oh, you need somebody else. Yeah, you need somebody else to help you there.
Yes.
So is there a certain age of client going through a divorce that's ideal to work with a CDFA?
I always, anybody can work with CDFA at any time, right? If you do not have a lot of assets, where you might just need a little bit of budgeting help. If you're just starting out, if you're married for a couple of years, you're more than likely CDFA services aren't going to be as beneficial. But when you look at it and you think closer to retirement, so great divorce is clients that are getting divorced 50 years old or after, right? They're closer to that retirement. Some people are after retirement, right? The person is now home all the time and you guys have not really seen each other and now you're together all the time. You're like, this is not working, right? So they're getting divorced after retirement. But it's that age when you're close to retirement that I think is so important to understand. What does it look like if you have 500,000 in your 401k and now you have 250, right? It's a marital asset, so it's not yours and mine, right? But now you have 250 and the other person has 250. So what does that look like for your retirement? Do you need to increase the amount you're contributing every paycheck? Do you need to supplement a different way? Or are you going to be okay, right? Because everybody's like, oh, I'm giving half of it away. It's what I hear all the time. That's not the case, right? But I'm giving half of it away and I'm never going to be able to retire. Well, let's not say never. Let's understand what that looks like and what your projections are, or maybe there's another option there. So yes, as we get closer to retirement, I think 50 or over, it is very important to seek financial guidance from a CDFA along with your attorney, and then also along with a mortgage rep, because, right, we got to make sure that we know, can we afford the house? Can we not? It all goes into finances. So all those professionals are so important. And I do believe it's closer to when you're retiring, but also when you have young kids or kids in high school that are going to college. It's another time that you really want to dig into your finances and understand what it's going to mean to you throughout the divorce.
And those are both great times to talk to a CDFA, but so different in life. And so it's not like you can give a broad brush answer, because those are two totally different situations of kids going to college versus, going and retiring soon.
Right.
And so then I like how you mentioned how you need like the attorney and probably a mortgage person. Sometimes we recommend a CDLP, a certified divorce lending professional. Is there anyone else that you really recommend is great to have on your divorce team?
Yes, I believe an estate planning attorney is really important to have on your team, especially if you're getting closer to retirement, or if you have kids at home, right? Boy, I'm saying both those scenarios, but it's very important that you're understanding how, now that you're, two, and now you're two separate households, what does it mean if, you pass away early? Are those assets going to where they're directed to go? Are they going to your kids? Or if you get remarried, it just can get more complicated. You want to make sure that your wishes are going to be laid out if you pass away, or if you get hurt, or something happens, right? We always want to plan for the worst and hope for the best. But it is so important during those times that you take that extra step to hire, because people are like, oh, well, it's expensive to get an estate plan. It's like, it's more expensive not to get an estate plan. And so I think that's the next person that is very important. Also, this is great timing, but a CPA. So you're really going to want to understand your taxes and have somebody that's very patient, that can take the time, not just to file your tax return and be done, but to sit down with your situation and say, especially if you're a high wage earner, or if you have your own business, to say, hey, this is what this means to you in taxes, because you may need to adjust how much you're withdrawing or how much you're withholding from your paycheck. You may need to adjust how much you're sending into prepaid taxes. So those are two very important other professionals you want to add into your team.
Great points. Yeah, the estate plan, the wills, the trust, absolutely necessary. We can't push that enough. But then, yes,
checklists, because it can get very overwhelming. I'm sure I can hear this conversation and see people going, oh my gosh, I need so many people. Right. No, there's timelines, and if you have somebody that guides you, I'm a guide, kind of the quarterback of the situation, I call myself, and we have checklists that we use to really lay down and have it say, okay, this is the timeline for this. This is, the timeline for this. And we're able to break that up so it makes sense for you and it's not all at once.
I love that, because it can sound overwhelming. It can sound expensive. You can sound busy. And like you said, you're still raising those kids, running that business, doing these different things, and so to have someone on your team to kind of manage this almost, and help you stay on the right track is really essential.
Definitely.
And so what does it look like when you first kind of have that first meeting with a potential client? What should people expect?
So really expect to come open to have a conversation and talk. I want to get to know my clients and what's important to them. So I go through and I talk about goals. And I know some people are like, what are goals for divorce, right? I don't even want a divorce, right?
The goal is to get divorced.
Yeah. I just want to be done. I don't want to do this anymore. Or I don't even want to get divorced, right? We got two ends of the spectrum. But what are your goals? It's going to happen. So what is your ultimate? You want to stay in the house? Do you want the kids to be here or there? I want to retire in 10 years. What's important to you? And then I take a look and say, what's important to the other side? Let me know what you think the other side is going to think and what's important to them, because that helps mindset, especially of the person in front of me saying, all right, this isn't just about me. There's another person here negotiating, but we can really kind of plan ahead for both sides. So I do understand priorities and goals for both sides from my client's perspective. Then I want to get a good base. We talked about most people, some people are great. Most people are just living day to day. they're saving for retirement. They're doing the right things, but they're really not understanding granular what their finances are and where their base is and what their budget is. Budget's always a bad word. I think it's a good word. But I don't think a budget's restricting. I think it's freeing. So we really understand where our money is going. So we can then have a new way of telling our money where to go, which is very important. Understanding what your assets are, going through your tax returns. So I gather all that information and I say, hey, I'm going to go through this and I'm going to take my experience in what I've done with the many, many cases that I've been through and pull through and say, okay, well, I think there may be a savings account over here because of this. And, looking at all of the financial information. So pay stubs, tax returns, checking, savings, credit card statements, mortgage.
You get it all.
Everything. So I'm going to look at that and get that information, but really understanding your goals for that first meeting, getting a budget set, and I'm going to do all the work from there, right? So I'm going to gather all that. And then we have our next meeting and we go over asset separation projections, what your budget is, what you want it to be. So it's a few meeting step process, right?
Of course.
First. But that's what we really go through. And it's a lot. I see people come into me really, really tense and just very, very nervous. And afterwards they say, oh my goodness, thank you. I didn't understand this. I didn't understand it was going to be okay. Right. And you see them relax. You see their shoulders come down. You see them really say like, okay, I'm going to be okay. And I understand what's happening next. And then we build next steps from there.
I love that. That sense of ease is honestly it's just priceless,
I mean, that's over and over again, which makes my job worth it. And it makes what I do, because it can get very heavy, makes what I do all the better, because I say, yeah, these people are really getting help and understanding things, because they might come into me and say, I'm really embarrassed because I've never looked at my finances. My husband did it all, or my wife did it all. That was a responsibility in the marriage. We all have different responsibilities. We can't all do it all. So it's okay. But now we're going to understand it. And it just says, they go from maybe embarrassed or really scared to having that sense of confidence going through their divorce.
I love that. And it's always, I always hear, well, I don't know if I can afford to get divorced, and just having this conversation and knowing your footing, knowing where you're at and kind of just what your options are, is just, like you said, that peace of mind. Your shoulders kind of relax. And you just, once you understand what's going on in your house.
Right. Exactly.
I feel like we've covered a ton of great information. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to make sure we share with our audience today?
I just want to say, if you are facing divorce or you're questioning, right, people think about it for years before it happens. It's okay to understand where your finances are. It's okay to take control of that side of it. And it doesn't mean you're going to get divorced. Doesn't mean if you're halfway through that you can change your mind, right? But just understanding your finances makes you a better partner also in the marriage. But just having that confidence and that base, don't be afraid to come, even if you're not going through a divorce, and get a review and get a good understanding of where your finances are. And like I said, it doesn't mean you have to get divorced. People say that all the time. Well, maybe I don't want to. It's okay. I'm here to help give you that information and give you that confidence. And that's my goal for my initial meetings.
I love that. Yeah. This conversation does not lock you into being divorced. And it's great information just to know, if your partner gets in a car accident or anything were to happen, you just know, because we're not all like The Notebook where we die together on the same day in bed. Right. And so, that's awesome if that happens for you. But if it doesn't, now you know what's going on in the household and the household finances. So if anything, it's just a great base knowledge to have. Like you said, it makes you a better partner. So it's great information to have, if you're thinking about getting divorced or not. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's important.
So as through this live, Jennifer's email has been going through the bottom. She's also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So you can check her out on our site, pursestrings.co. Is there any other way you like people to reach out to you?
If you are up for a phone call, you can reach out to Tranel Financial Group at 847-680-9050, or the phone call or the email that's been scrolling along is perfectly fine as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you today, Jennifer, for coming on and sharing your expertise. If anyone still has questions, please reach out to Jennifer or Purse Strings, as we're happy to help you through this process. And as we said, the best thing to do is just get started. And so let's just, start these conversations and be financially fearless. So thank you again, Jennifer, and we'll talk to
Thank you,
everyone soon.
Maggie.
All right. Bye-bye.